Hey guys, what's up? Barabin here. I haven't done a video in a while, but we had a big update in the last few days, and there's been a lot of coverage on the update, but I kind of wanted to go through a little bit in more detail and kind of speculate a little bit about what the future of the journey guide is going to hold, and kind of as far as future content and as far as future bringing out new characters and things like that. So you can see there's all these characters that are unlocked through the journey guide, and the two big ones obviously that people are kind of talking about are Kylo Ren, who we assume is the supreme leader Kylo Ren, and then what is seemingly a light side Jedi Rey. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what this means and kind of what kind of characters you might want to be thinking about. And obviously, if you kind of see my prior videos that I've done, I talked a little bit about farming the resistance, and I kind of hit on the First Order as well, and that was 2 or 3 months ago. And I said, hey, we need to be farming the resistance and the First Order. So that's what I've been doing on my account, at least. I focused pretty heavily after I missed General Skywalker. I stopped that completely and I went for First Order. So my First Order guys are getting pretty close. Right now I'm kind of in horde mode where I'm not going to place any more gear for a few weeks so we can see kind of how things shake out, but I'm just going to be kind of hoarding up gear 13 and some other things. So anyway, First Order and Resistance, obviously the safe thing to do in this situation is to just farm all of them, right? Just get all of them up to 7-star, get all of them up to gear 12, and maybe just start hoarding gear 12 finishers and gear 12 pieces, and then obviously the relic materials and things like that. But that's not really all that feasible, so I think we kind of have to be smart about maybe which characters we're investing in, and that's why I've kind of focused on, you can see I got Holdo and Rose both done, and as far as 7-star, and then I actually took Holdo to relic 3 because I think she's pretty good, but I don't want to get too far off topic. So basically you can farm all the resistance and all the First Order and you should be good to go. And then definitely think about taking the big guys to up in relics. First Order Executioner is really important. Kylo Ren on Mask is really important. Kylo Ren's probably questionably important. And then I think we can probably also speculate that Hux and Sith Trooper are probably going to be required, and maybe not hard required, but maybe soft required, as far as maybe there's a lot of bonus turn meter, maybe there's a lot of counterattacks, and in Hux's leadership, and we'll counter those things. So once you get the Omega on that, he'll be able to prevent counters and all that good stuff. So I think that's kind of probably what we're going to see. My guess is we're going to see an event where you kind of soft need that, and maybe the first thing that's true for Resistance as well. Maybe Holdo's days will be important, or maybe you'll need a lot more sustainability. So you'll need to bring maybe all the droids or something like that. So I mean, for that one, if you haven't already started pushing those guys, it may be too late. You may want to drop everything you're doing and kind of work on them now. But the other thing I wanted to talk about here, as far as future content, so we believe the first quarter they've already kind of talked about, that's going to be kind of First Order centric, but as we're seeing here, it must be Resistance centric as well. I believe we're going to get capital ships. I believe we're going to get another Resistance ship, I think is likely, because if you look at our fleet, we've got 4 First Order ships, and we've only got 3 Resistance ships, and we don't have a capital ship for either. So I think they've talked about ship content coming in the future. They've talked about a new raid in the future. So I think it's somewhat likely we're going to see a combination of both. We might see a raid that requires ships and characters. Maybe there's one phase is ships and one phase is characters or something like that. Or 2 and 2. My thinking is it's probably only 1 phase of ships, because there's just not that many ships, and ships don't really have that much sustainability, except for maybe Galactic Republic ships have pretty good sustainability. But anyway, I think if we do see a Resistance and First Order capital ship, I think it's likely that we'll get another Resistance ship, which I think will probably be a pilotless ship. It'll probably be a B-wing, or not a B-wing, sorry, an A-wing or a bomber. So I think that's probably somewhat likely. So you can see I'm not quite done farming those ships. I got Poe Dameron's X-wing there. I'm working on, and the First Order ships. I'm just now finishing the guild currency Special Forces TIE Fighter ship and pilot. So I think those are ones that you really, unfortunately, those aren't really ones you can you can't panic farm the special forces guys. So if that ship's required, that's gonna maybe a problem for a lot of people. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing, guys. I'm just kind of focusing on all of those first order and resistance, making sure I have the stars ready, and then just kind of hoarding gear, you know, stun guns, cuffs, carbantes, all that good stuff. And that's what I'm doing right now. And so as far as those guys, I don't know if there'll be this many characters. I think it's likely we'll need at least five resistance characters and probably all the ships. So maybe any 5 resistance characters, I guess we'll see. But the bigger thing that I think is coming actually is I think that the biggest galactic legend that isn't in the game yet is the much fabled Jedi Luke. And I believe that he is going to be coming to the game in the next year. And I think that he like I said, he's the biggest galactic legend. If you look at who we have in the game now, the biggest characters that are in the game, he's kind of a pretty big missing component. Another thing I wanted to point out about these two events is that they don't look like Hero's Journey events, but that's seemingly what they are, because they require a unit, and then to get that unit you get you know, an upgraded version of them. So that's just like we did with CLS and just like we did with JTR. It doesn't have that same name, but I think that that's because it's going to be not a phased like how the JTR event is, where if we go and look at the JTR event, which is a fun event to go redo, you can see it kind of follows the storyline from in episode 7. So there's 7 tiers here, and to get the 7-star characters. So what I think is likely is that they're kind of rebranding this Galactic Legend event as such, because first of all, it's going to go straight into the shop, or into the journey guide, but also because it's not going to look like the old Hero's Journey events. So they can't really put it under that same helm, right? It'll require an old character, but it won't follow the progress of the movie, and I think it'll be too different. But you can see the game that they're playing here, where they're just kind of renaming the event, and now they can include ships, they can include unrelated characters and things like that. Because if you looked at Jedi Rey's journey through episode 8, The Last Jedi, there wouldn't really be a lot of characters required, right? I mean, you might have there might be an event where Rey is fighting something on Achto, or there might be a Finn and Rose event on I don't remember what the name of the planet was, but there's not really a lot of like kind of big events that you could kind of tie, and it's just not going to be that good of an event. So I think what we're going to see is something kind of a mix and match between a hero's journey and an epic confrontation. We're going to have these big events, and we're going to have a mixture of a lot of different characters and ships and things like that. So you know, I think when I initially saw this, I said, you know what, there's no way they're going to require 15 characters here. That's probably crazy. It's probably like some of the resistance and some of them aren't. But I think now that the more that I see this, the more that I think it seems likely that there really are going to be this many ships required. And it may be that a lot of that is because of pilots. So if you look at, if we think there's going to be 4 resistant ships and then a capital ship, that's 5, which means there's 10 units remaining in here for the event, which means that there could potentially be 5 for the pilots, maybe for those ships, and then 5 for an actual event. So I don't know if that's likely. Let's see for the Malak event or the General Skywalker if it shows up like that. No, it doesn't really show up like that. It just shows the ships. It doesn't actually show that their pilots are required. So I don't know if that's likely or not. This one looks a little different, but that's kind of what I'm speculating, is that maybe it's 5 ships, a capital ship and 4 regular ships, and then 5 pilots. So maybe it's only a 2-stage event where you need 5 resistance, and then you need 5 resistance pilots plus their ships. So I don't know. That might be something, or it may not be. But that's how you can easily get to 15, right? And First Order already has 4 ships. I don't think we're going to see any more First Order ships. But I think it is likely that Hux is going to be a capital ship commander, and I think Holdo might be a capital ship commander. And I think it's likely we're going to see that with the Holdo event, we would see that pilotless ship that goes along with it. So, but anyway, you can see how this is going to get to this point where you can see, you know, which is the bigger galactic legend. Is it Rey and Kylo, or is it Luke Skywalker, Jedi Luke Skywalker? And the other thing that's kind of interesting here is that they're releasing 2 of these at the same time, seemingly. I guess we don't really know yet, but they kind of released them to us in tandem, so it seems likely that they'll be released into the game at the same time. So I wonder if that means that we might see this dark side Anakin and Jedi Luke Skywalker as sort of like a father and son duo. It kind of depends on how that plays out. My only issue with that is that that would be kind of almost them caught up with all of the Star Wars characters at that point. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a lot to speculate here, and I think that it's definitely a good time to be in the game. I don't know how I feel about the hyperdrive bundle yet, but I think the journey. I think the jury's kind of out on the journey guide. I think it's definitely a great thing. You know, you can go in here and play this event over and over and over again and show how funny it is. And with relics, I think First Order Executioner can just walk over this. It's pretty great. So we just put this over on him, and then we just kind of go to town. This is a Relic 5 or Relic 7 First Order Executioner, but you know, it's fun to kind of just kill some time and kind of see how these events go. And it's obviously not an event you actually have to pay attention to. So it's fun though. It's good content when you're bored or something to play around with. It's cool to go through and get all these to 3-star. But obviously these events are pretty easy at this point. But anyway, it's still a cool event to play. I'm really happy with that. I'm glad they came out with that. But the bigger picture, I think, is that they're definitely gearing up for the long term. You know, when we see light side territory battles and how hard that is, and then we see the journey guide coming out to kind of help get new players in the game and things like that. You know, I think that some people were kind of thinking that maybe the game was declining, or maybe that they were gonna, you know, kind of setting up to milk the remaining money from the whales and then kind of shut the game down. And I think that seems very unlikely at this point with this new kind of thing set up with the long-term aspect of light side GOTB, you know, and now with this 2 Galactic Legends, I think that tells me that we've got at least another couple years, you know, in this game. And you know, the Mandalorian's doing really well. You know, there's already another season of that coming, and people are loving that show. It's a great show. I really enjoy it. And then we've got Clone Wars coming out and all that good stuff. So there's a lot to look forward to, I think, in the Star Wars universe. And I think this game's going to be around for a while. But I think, you know, to sum up the point of the video, I think I just want to kind of speculate a little bit about what's going to happen with this journey guide, and then maybe what's the future of it, and what other Galactic Legends can we kind of expect to show up here. And then, you know, we'll just kind of go from there. You know, I'm glad that I started working on First Order and Resistance a long time ago, because it looks like they're probably going to be required. And kind of what's cool is it as I mentioned before about the hero's journey, this Galactic Legend event doesn't look like it takes place in The Last Jedi. It looks like it takes place in the Rise of Skywalker. You can see here it says Kylo Ren seized control of the First Order after slaying Supreme Leader Snoke. Now he's leading them to wipe every last member of the Resistance from existence. So that's Rise of Skywalker. And then for Rey's, it says Rey has come a long way from her days as an orphan scavenger on Jakku. Brave and fiercely loyal, this Force-sensitive human will stop at nothing to fight for what she believes in. That's a pretty generic one. That doesn't really tell us it's Rise of Skywalker, but I think from the picture we kind of know that's who it is. It's probably even her from the end of Rise of Skywalker. So these definitely look like a light side and dark side. I think I don't think we're going to see any big spoilers there. I don't think Rey's going to go to the dark side. I don't think Kylo's going to get redeemed or anything like that. But you know, you never know. But it sounds like we aren't going to hear more about these characters for maybe another month. So if you've been around for a few years, you know that CG kind of shuts down and there's not going to be any content for a few weeks, probably right after the movie, and then probably until the new year, and then even probably another week after that. So probably around the 10th or 11th of January, we'll start seeing more. We'll sort of hopefully start seeing what's going on with the Galactic Legend. Hopefully we'll get the names there, and that gives us a month right now to start farming and kind of gearing up stuff. I'm going to do my best not to equip any gear on these resistance guys. So I really don't want to waste it. There's a lot of kind of precious gear. You know, Rose right here needs 3 gold eyeballs, I think, to get to gear 12, or 2 gold eyeballs, and there's stuff like that that you really just can't afford to waste. So my opinion for those is hoard gear right now. Make sure you have the stars for all the resistance and first order, and then, you know, look, and after those guys are done, honestly, I would start looking at Jedi Luke, and looking at what characters do we have right now that are kind of related to Jedi Luke. And if we look at the Rebel faction, you know, I think most people at this point probably haven't geared up Rolo or Captain Han. And Captain Han is actually pretty good in a Scoundrel lineup. He can be pretty good. Rolo is not great, and she is a complete monster to gear. She needs something like 500 Carbantes. And so but I do think that it seems likely that they're going to be required. Maybe even your boy Lobot, I don't know. That seems crazy to me, but it could be, you know, that we need Lando and Captain Han and Rolo and maybe Chewbacca or someone like that to unlock Jedi Luke. And then on the dark side, you know, it also seems possible that we're gonna need people like Probe Droid and Wampa and all that. So I think, you know, if we're making speculative plays looking at Jedi Luke, you know, I think people like Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader and Wampa and these kind of original trilogy. I wish you could sort by original trilogy or something, but you can't. You know, maybe Veers, maybe, you know, I really hope it's not gonna be somebody like Ugnaught, but it's possible. You know, maybe Boba Fett even. Maybe it requires bounty hunters, you know, or the original trilogy bounty hunters to kind of hunt them down, something like that. There's a lot of possibilities, guys. And, you know, one of the characters that I haven't looked at all, that I think I have any shards of, is your boy Gamorrean Guard, Gamu. And you know, he's one we might have to think about at this point, because if they really want to put a paywall there with Jedi Luke, it's going to be Gamu. I think there's not many of us who kind of have him, unless your name is Urs. You know, I don't have a relic out Gamu. So, you know, I would be thinking about those original trilogy guys. You know, one of my favorite parts about this game is speculating on new content and kind of the future. So, I definitely think that that's something to think about for the future with the journey guide coming out, and even just bringing up Galactic Legend. I mean, the biggest Galactic Legend is Luke Skywalker. It's the whole basis for the Force Awakens and you know, the original trilogy. So I think that's a definite possibility. Obviously, you probably need CLS, so you know, that those are a lot of those characters are good characters. You know, I'm not going to feel bad gearing up Han Solo and Chewbacca and all those guys. I'm going to feel bad gearing up Rolo, but you know, hopefully she's not required. But we'll see, guys. So I think that's it